Bitcoin and crypto are the hottest topic on the entire planet right now. Coinbase just had their public listing. I brought in an expert, Crypto Michael, a good friend, to talk about everything that's going on in the crypto market right now and to give us his predictions for Bitcoin and Ethereum price at the end of this cycle. You do not want to miss this. Stay tuned. What is up, everybody? I am Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and go ahead and hit that like button below. Now, I'm really excited to talk to today's guest. Crypto Michael is probably the person who's been on the other side of this screen more often than any other human being in the world at this point, usually with us discussing the correlation between the stock market and crypto, but maybe we'll avoid that topic today. Today, I really want to dive into his predictions for the market in the coming year and beyond. Also talk about the very hot Coinbase direct listing and everything else that is driving the crypto market. What's up, Michael? How are you today, man?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful, man. It's short nights nowadays, but it's bull market. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I think, it's Nas who said, I never sleep because sleep is the cousin of death. Or we can say maybe we'll sleep again in the bear market, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, to be honest.
Yeah, who needs the money? I need the sleep. Absolutely. So the thing everybody's talking about over the past few days, obviously, is the Coinbase direct listing, which they obviously decided not to do an IPO and decided to just have the direct listing. It looks like they're going to be launching at about $340 a share or so. I would love to hear your general thoughts on this Coinbase listing, and then also why they decided to do it the old way, on a stock exchange rather than doing it the blockchain way.
Well, I think it's Coinbase is a very traditional company. It's literally a company. So they are fully regulated with custodial services in the USA. So what options do they have aside from going public on a traditional exchange? There's none. The road of being a securitized token or going public through blockchain is very complicated, as it's just the difficult path for them. So going public on a traditional exchange is just the easiest way for them to attract traffic, to get exposure, etc. So I'm not blaming them. I think it's actually quite well for the entire space to have that connection with the traditional markets and what we have been seeing with institutions jumping into the crypto markets. Now with this listing, it's just all broadening up and making that mass adoption. I think it's just a massive day in general.
Yes, I think there's obviously the one side which says it's huge for mass adoption. It gives institutions and big money a way to gain exposure to Bitcoin, obviously without buying the underlying asset. Do you think that there's a flip side to that where there's a risk that Coinbase does so well that these institutions that were looking at Bitcoin just never buy Bitcoin?
That could, but well, they could have been doing that already with MicroStrategy, right? And all those mining companies, that exposure was already there. It's just a different side of the entire crypto market that they could buy. But even if they are buying Coinbase, they're still not buying Bitcoin, and not your keys is not your coins. So Coinbase is something different than Bitcoin or the crypto markets. It's just a company facilitating everything that you can do on an exchange. So they are making money. That's their purpose. And yes, they also hold crypto as a custodial service to have all the liquidity on the exchange, etc., and also the insurance. But I'm not expecting that Paul Tudor Jones and all the big guys are all of a sudden going to sell their Bitcoin and just buy Coinbase. It's just another addition to the market.
That makes perfect sense, and I agree. So in advance of the trading, we saw valuations wildly across the board from 19 billion all the way up to around 200 billion. I believe on FTT, the trading market on the price was around 140 to 160 billion valuation. What do you think a fair valuation for Coinbase is?
Well, I think literally a valuation of around 100 billion is already just a fair value. But if you just get the numbers going, they made 1.9 billion in the first quarter. If you analyze that over the year, it's about 8 billion, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the valuation of 100 billion is about P/S ratio of like 12, 13, 14, which is pretty standard for such a company, especially a startup or a newly listed company in a new market as crypto is. So this is already a fair value. And what you will be getting right now is that the market will start overpricing this company based on future value that they can make, which is also why we're currently in a tech bubble. Money is just going towards all those companies while they can't grow anymore, or it's just overextended. But what we will be seeing as the most likely outcome is that Coinbase will most likely run to like 200, 300, 400 billion valuation, and that it's getting ridiculous as we are in the bull cycle. But a fair value is to me around 100 billion based on the numbers that they make. If they're going to make more money, like 3-4 billion a quarter, of course they could be higher. But at some point you get the steepening and the overall cycle just stopping out, and then it's getting overvalued. So as a conclusion, around 100 is just fairly normal.
Yeah, like you said, 12 to 13 is actually conservative these days. We're seeing tech companies easily at 20 to 30. So I think that, 100 seems extremely reasonable. Now, I'm curious, now that we're seeing Coinbase obviously go with this direct listing, do you think that we're going to see interest from other exchanges in also going public, whether through direct listing or IPO, bigger players like Binance in their markets? And, and what would their value be if they decided to do so?
Well, I think you see two different paths right now. You see Coinbase going public in a traditional way, and I guess Gemini and all those regulated exchanges will do the same. And then Binance is taking the other route and just listing stocks. So they are trying to become an exchange themselves. So that's the other way around. As Coinbase is a company and you have ownership if you hold that stock. With Binance, it's completely different. It's a utility token. It's got the DeFi, Pancake Swap. Everything is launching on that platform, which is an entirely different concept than Coinbase in itself. So I think that we will be seeing more of those exchanges doing it, but the only ones doing it are the ones who are fully compliant.
Right.
Because Binance is not. Like all those fancy stuff that you can do on the site, on the exchange, is literally not the traditional way, and they are taking a different path. So and if you look at the valuation of Binance, I guess it's going to be triple the value of Coinbase. I think they are making a fuck ton of money. And so the valuation of Binance should be way higher. But the difference is that if you hold the Binance coin, you don't have ownership of the company in itself. So you don't get dividends or whatever. It's being used as a utility token inside the entire ecosystem. So you can't really compare the valuation of Binance coin with Coinbase, but you can still make some sort of calculation,
So there are a lot of people who are using sort of this Coinbase public listing as sort of a bellwether for the entire market and where we might be in the cycle. I've seen, obviously, people taking both sides. Some are saying, hey, this is just the beginning. Coinbase launches, the bull cycle is going to go crazy, mainstream adoption, all of that. There are others who say all of this excitement, a company like this listing, are top signals, right? So where do you think we are in the bull market? I mean, with regards to the Coinbase listing, but then very generally, where do you think we are in this bull cycle?
I guess we are in that phase where people are in disbelief and still have the bearish mindset. So every big event that's taking place, they think that that's the top of the bull market. So that's literally that middle phase, right? So newcomers are into the markets and they think, oh, this is going to explode. And the older ones that have survived the bear market are still having that mindset. So everything like the pie indicator or this Coinbase listing, they use it as a narrative for the bear market to start. While on the other hand, you have all the institutions jumping into the markets right now. You see the on-chain exchange balances dropping down heavily, which is comparable to 2016 when we also saw that. Which means that we're just at the start of this entire cycle, in which we also see the first real alt cycle happening right now. So truly, I believe that we are in the middle of that bull cycle where Bitcoin had its first run, and now the altcoins are just facing up, and we go way higher than majority is expecting it to happen. That's usually what happens.
Price always goes deeper and higher than anyone seems to expect, that's for sure. To that end, you just touched on it. I know that you've been very outspoken about an extremely bullish altcoin summer. In fact, they asked me about your comments on it on Cointelegraph when they interviewed me, and I
there you go.
And I share the same sentiment generally for what you're saying. So, are you basically saying that we're somewhere in the middle of the Bitcoin run, but very early in the altcoin run?
Yeah, I guess we're just in the path where people start to feel comfortable by holding Bitcoin. And when the majority is comfortable by holding Bitcoin, you will see that altcoins start to outperform Bitcoin through the Bitcoin pairs. So next to that, you also see just developments and you see new projects coming around doing massive stuff like Atom or other ones. They're just developing. And all that combination is just driving up those altcoins. And you just use TA to see where the cycle is starting. Retail is pushing altcoins as the only focus they have is altcoins in general. They don't care about Bitcoin. They want to have the next Pondy X. And that combination of having Bitcoin as your basis gives you safety in trading those altcoins. So that's what's happening right now is that Bitcoin just stabilizes and altcoins start to run. And at some point, people start to take profit from their altcoins back to Bitcoin and Bitcoin runs again. Just that cycle is starting up again.
Right. And I'm curious if there'll be differences in the cycle this time. Obviously, what you've just described is very familiar to anyone who's comfortable with the crypto space and has been here a while. But if you didn't go through those previous cycles and you're just a normie person who's come in and found out about Bitcoin for the first time, do you think that we're going to see the mainstream funnel down to altcoins as well as the core members of the community that we know understand the cycle?
The thing is that the overall subject is still just Bitcoin. Especially in mainstream media, it's only about Bitcoin. So I just say that what we have experienced in 2017 was the awareness phase of Bitcoin. Now we get the mass adoption phase for Bitcoin, the awareness phase for blockchain and DeFi. So right now we don't see too much coverage of all those platforms and blockchain in general in mainstream media. But later this stage we will have that. And then people will start to see, oh, whoa, I can get 6% interest while on my bank it's 0.1. So that will come around, and that's being pushed by Bitcoin going as mass adoption, as that safe haven in the entire environment that we're living in.
Yeah, it is interesting. This time there have been a few alts that seem to have made it through to the mainstream, like Doge and Cardano. Even your average person.
That's true, yeah.
Which I do think is really interesting. Obviously, we had Ripple and Ethereum, I think, in the first cycle, and Ripple even again. But hopefully, we'll see more of those names make it through to the mainstream media on this cycle. That said, with regard to the cycle, what are your predictions for Bitcoin price as we continue to push? Where should we start looking for a top and thinking, okay, we might actually finally see some retracement?
It's very difficult to say anything like that in the short term, especially with the Coinbase listing happening right now. It could be such an event where it's buy the rumor, sell the news, and we could just get a very regular 30% correction. Either way, that's just the most difficult call to make. The conclusion that we make is that we are into a bull cycle, so even if we have that correction, it's still bullish.
Right.
Where are we going to end with the cycle in general, or what level? Well, I'm with Plan B and Willy Woo, and they all say between 250 and 400k, somewhere in that region. And if you compare it to the valuation of the .com bubble and gold, you are getting to that region as well. As if the .com bubble was 12 trillion, around that. So if you put it to nowadays prices with all the money that's being printed since then, it's about 30 to 35 trillion. So I would not be surprised if this entire mass adoption hype and bubble like the .com bubble was going to last to that level. So that we get a crypto cycle to around 25 to 30 trillion.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Actually, my target's around 235, not based on any technical factor or a chart, but because that's basically the average of every single prediction that everybody's made. If you add them together and average it, it comes to 235. And while individuals are obviously terrible at making predictions, groups on an average tend to do very, very well.
But it's very comparable to 2017. I do remember the period where people were saying, yeah, Bitcoin goes to 6K and that's the top, and it ran to 20. Right. So even if I'm going to say 200k, probably it will just blast through it.
Sure. None of us know.
Nobody knows, but it's very reasonable to see the market go through a .com bubble phase.
Yeah, so what if we're all completely wrong? Is there a possibility that we could just be entering a bear market right now or sometime soon, and we just all haven't seen it because we're feeling a bit euphoric?
Well, it's I'm getting a little bit cautious by the fact that literally everybody's discussing crypto nowadays, and also the normies just on the street. They are all interested in crypto. But the only reason that we could get a bear market right now is when all of a sudden a bank collapses and the entire system falls around or falls over. That could happen, but what we see right now is that we have still the infinite amount of money being printed. So as long as that's going to last, I don't see it ending. We see the stock market still running up heavily. So yeah, there's always a chance that we get a crisis, but right now it just doesn't seem logic to have that, especially given the fact that literally everybody is expecting a crisis, and the crisis doesn't occur when everybody expects it to occur. Right. So the most likely chance that we're going to get it is that the corona pandemic just goes away, everybody's going to enjoy life for a year, and nobody discusses the crisis anymore, and all of a sudden we get it.
Yeah, because they keep printing money regardless whether they need it or not.
So yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious. We touched on it. Obviously, we're seeing sort of a institutional-driven bull market this time. I'm curious what your thoughts are on all the companies: Tesla, PayPal, Visa. Do you think that they're just sort of riding the hype cycle and doing it because they have to, or do you think that they're legitimately invested and will continue to invest and take interest in Bitcoin and crypto?
Well, I think the general standard that they have is that they start to understand the failures that we have with our financial system. Especially Elon Musk has been touching that point quite often, also being fueled by Michael Saylor in general. But these companies see what's happening right now and where the future is going to go to, and that's tech in general. So it's a combination of the hype that's happening right now and also being futuristic and seeing where we are heading, which is a big crisis and then decentralization. So they start to understand that point and they want to jump on that hype train, especially as if you're one of the first ones doing that, you'll be one of the big winners as well. It's the same for countries. If countries are going to accept and adapt blockchain, they'll be the big winners. So third world countries can make that jump to developed countries just by accepting blockchain in general. So I think they're trying to take that bet to become a winner. And what can they lose?
I think that's an absolutely great point. I'm curious to what you're seeing actually in your home country. I know that you're in the Netherlands. Are you seeing like a general awareness of crypto increasing there? People using it, trading it, investing, or do you still think it's relatively quiet?
No. Well, my life has changed as right now I'm getting recognized on the street. So it's being discussed a lot, and I guess there's two groups of people. There's one group of people that are saying Bitcoin is a safe haven, and that's just the real hard money and sound money that we have. And then there's another group of people that only discusses XRP, DENT, Holo Token, and PoonDX. Those retail traders. There's nothing fundamental being discussed about what blockchain can bring. But it's good that it's getting into the spotlight. It's being traded heavily here. At the stock exchange today, they were discussing the Coinbase listing, and everybody wanted to have it. So it's being hyped a lot. And I also, I'm seated at the stock exchange with the biggest fund in Europe, Iconic. And they have just been adding people for sales as they just constantly getting called for people that want to invest money into crypto. So yeah, it's a hype here as well.
So dramatic hype and increase, but still people aren't actually talking about the fundamentals in tech, which could mean that we're still a bit early in people actually understanding what's happening.
Yeah, I guess the moment that they will be starting to understand what's happening is when it's too late.
Yeah, right when Peter Schiff decides to buy Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. Like when it's too late, when the crisis starts to happen, then they start to realize how big it is and what they have to do, and then it's too late.
So how about Ethereum? What do you think the interplay is between Ethereum and Bitcoin? Which one do you think will perform better in this cycle, and what are your price predictions for the Ethereum top?
100% Ether.
Same.
I think Ethereum is going to be... I think the flipping will happen this cycle.
Oh, wow.
I do expect that Bitcoin will not stay number one during this cycle, simply put because of the potential that Ethereum has as the Web 3.0 platform. So I also expect that other platforms will do well, but if the upgrades on Ethereum will succeed, I think it will just pass Bitcoin in terms of market cap. So expectations of the value of one ETH, if you think that Bitcoin is doing a 5x from here, which is to 300K, A 10x of Ethereum to 25k is quite normal, especially when it overshoots at some point. So that's a bit of the region where I'm looking at.
About a month ago, I tweeted I expected Ethereum to hit 10,000 on this cycle, and people were appalled. Well, right?
Yeah, I
thought that
tweeted this as well. They think that I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But I think if you say 10k, it's still conservative.
I actually tend to agree with you, and I think that in terms of performance, Ethereum will probably has far more upside than Bitcoin from this point.
Well, maybe during the summer we are going to see a run towards like 6, 7, 8k already if the Bitcoin pair starts to last and the upgrades start to work. So
now, before we finish, is there anything else that you're looking at that you're super bullish on in the next couple months?
The Dino coins, they are doing quite well. So I'm looking at them. And I guess it's time to start focusing on DeFi and oracles again. The one category that's doing pretty bad recently is DeFi. So that's where I'm looking at. And then you've got like Ivy and Synthetics and all those tokens, which have been correcting heavily. And everything's surrounded by oracles. So Chainlink, Dia, Telor, API 3. They have been underperforming heavily, but they tend to reverse at this stage. So I'm looking mostly on those.
Do you think that we're seeing the good old-fashioned altcoin cycle, Bitcoin, large cap, mid cap, small cap, rinse and repeat?
I think we're literally in it right now. As the
large caps like you said,
are doing fine.
XRP, Litecoin, ADA, TRX, we've seen them all move. So
Doge, Stellar, they are all moving. EOS is even moving. So when they are done, you see the mid caps do well. I think it's just repeating itself every time.
Yeah, history does not repeat, but it tends to rhyme, right?
Yeah. It's so fantastic.
Any parting thoughts for anyone on what to expect in the coming year or any other thoughts before we go?
Well, I would like to say to everyone to just be critic in general. Like the newcomers are always focused on the coins that have been running heavily. There's no easy cut to becoming a millionaire or to making it to financial freedom. You have to work for it. You have to do your research. I'm trying to do that with my content. You're trying to do that as well. But I know that there's many YouTubers and content providers out here who are not doing that. So always stay critical and be relatively cautious with your money. So don't put your savings into Pondy X when it already ran 20x. So that's literally what I wanted to say.
So you're not going to become a billionaire in the next month by investing $1,000 in a small cap crypto?
No. I wanted to make a joke, but no.
I know, yeah, right. The dreams are shattered. Yeah,
but crypto is the chances in crypto are like you can become what you want through crypto, but you have to put in the work. I've been doing it as well. I've started with a few K, and I'm at a stage right now that I'm just financially free and doing whatever I like to do. Same. So you can get there, but I've been grinding for years, and you get tons of value right now out of content, which is very valuable. Use it. Start working, start grinding, start compounding your profits, and then you'll be fine.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. A lot of really interesting insight. I can't wait to see how this Coinbase listing plays out and how accurate our predictions are in the coming months.
Well, it goes up, down, or sideways, right?
It was a blast,
man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.